I used to work at a small sleepaway camp as a counselor. It was my first job when I was 17. It was the most fun I could have at any job that age. Plus, it would get me away from my parents' house for a month. I didn't exactly come from an enviable background. So, at this camp, there were 5 buildings. The boys' dorms, the girls' dorms, the counselors' dorms, the main hall, which we called the shack, and a small bathroom building. In the shack was the cafeteria, main office, and nurses' quarters, where any kids who suffered any kind of injuries would be brought. Kids' curfew would be 9 o'clock. Curfews only, meaning they weren't allowed out of the dorm buildings past that time. I made good friends with a guy named Johnny. He was 3 years older than me, but we got along. It was a Friday night, I remember, because I knew it was the start of the weekend. So for fun, Johnny and I went to hang out with these 2 girl counselors, who I'll leave their names out for privacy since I haven't seen them in many years. The 4 of us went out to the woods to smoke. One of the girls was mid-sentence when all we heard was a crunch of leaves in the vicinity. Surely a footstep. All of our heads turned the same way and at the same time. We all heard it. Then a few seconds later, there was a blinding flash. We didn't understand at first. Unnerved, all of us cut the smoke sesh short and exited the woods at an extremely quick pace. Being back on the campgrounds felt a lot safer immediately, but we became paranoid that we were being watched by one of the camp supervisors and that the flash was a picture being taken. We would surely get fired if we were caught smoking weed. So, in a paranoid panic, we all rushed to our respective dorm buildings. The thing about me when I smoke weed, though, I get extremely paranoid and overthink everything. So as I sat in my bed, it ate away at me, wondering if it was indeed a camera flash. And who took that picture? I couldn't take it anymore. I had to go to the shack and see if any of the supervisors were still working and come clean. Every counselor had a key to the building, so I unlocked the door that led to the cafeteria section, and the door slammed behind me, echoing into the dark, empty building. The only light was coming from that hallway, which I would take to get to the main office, hoping there would be someone still working. You may think I was crazy to be doing this, but I'm not exaggerating when I say I get paranoid, and I really couldn't afford to lose this job over something that wasn't even my idea. However, I would feel out whichever supervisor was on duty and see if they had actually seen what we were doing. As I walked down the hall towards the office, though, I realized quickly that the office light was off. No one was in the building. Just then, I heard the familiar sound of the cafeteria exit door that I had just went through slamming again. Was I seen entering the building? Was I being followed? I hid behind the intersecting hallway wall, peeking my head around, waiting to see who would be walking into the hallway. No one ever did, though, but it took me longer than it should have to notice something peering around the doorway to the cafeteria. It was a person's head. They were doing exactly what I was doing, peering in my direction. When I realized this, I didn't care about being quiet anymore. I ran as fast as I could to the nearest exit, feet stomping on the wood flooring. I ran to the counselor dorm, where only 3 counselors were still chilling in the common area, one of them being Johnny. I told him, and only him, about what I just witnessed. I didn't know what to think, other than I was being followed. I think Johnny could tell I was being a little extra paranoid because I was high, so he told me to just go to my room and lock the door. He made sure to lock the main entrance to the building because I think I scared him too. That night, I lay awake for a while, thinking, nervous. So many unanswered questions from one night. The beds in every counselor's room lay right next to a window without blinds, so moonlight would pour in on clear nights, but not on this cloudy night. It was just pure darkness. Until, however many hours after laying down, a flash filled my room. Lightning? No. There was no thunder, not even rain. I looked at the window, and all I saw was someone's silhouette out there. When they noticed me notice them, I saw their hand making a waving motion at me. That was the last straw. I left my room screaming for Johnny. He had already gone to bed at this point, so I banged on his door till he opened up. I told him the man who was following me was at my window. So he went to check with me, but figures, he was gone. Johnny asked me if I was still high. I told him, not at all, it had been hours. I asked if we should call the cops or something. He said no. He told me to sleep on the floor in his room with my blankets if it made me feel better. Loki, I think he wanted me to because he was scared, just like I was. I didn't understand why, on the surface, he was pretending to not take this seriously, given that he saw the first flash in the woods with me. I did sleep in his room, though. I didn't want to sleep alone, I was too terrified. The next day, I went to the main office to talk with one of the supervisors. She didn't really know what to do. She didn't call the police, but she gave me permission to call them if something else happened for the safety of the children. But nothing happened again. Not until the last day on the job for counselors. This was when the kids had already gone home, and it was the day we were supposed to pack up and leave. I woke up to 4 pictures taped on my window. One zoomed in on me in the woods that night with Johnny and the 2 girls. A second picture of me sleeping in my bed. A third picture of me entering the shack building that night we smoked, confirming I was being watched and followed. And the 4th picture, a zoom in of my license plate number. I took the photos and showed them to the same supervisor. She kept them for evidence after writing down my whole story, including the smoking weed part. This was many years ago now, and nothing ever happened again. But I was scared to death that the picture of my license plate was some kind of threat, that whoever it was would track me. I still don't know who took those pictures.